back again today for something a little bit different. We're going to be finishing off our top 30 games of all time. 2014 is my top 30 games of all time. We did our numbers 30 through 21. We did our numbers, everything down to 10. We're down to 10 through 1. The creme de la crop, cream of the crop, cream of the creme, whatever the expression is, we're down to the 10 best games. My favorite games of all time. These games are pretty much, if you ask me, I will play them every single time. So, let's stop beating around the bush, that's an expression, and get to number 10. This game was number 7 last year, so it's fell down a little bit, but it's still one I absolutely adore and enjoy, but I don't own, unfortunately. That is Small World from Days of Wonder. And this one is always fun. It's got tons of expansions, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In this game, you are going to be area control / war game, whichever one. I think it's more area control, but you're going to be taking 2 unique races and monsters and special abilities, and you're going to mesh them together. So each game is going to be completely different because there's going to be different races and different special abilities that are going to give you different superpowers, and each superpower is going to play drastically different from the other one. Some people are going to be better around mountains, and some people can fly, and some people are going to, reproduce and have more and more skeletons coming out at you, and some people have cool special abilities once they die, but only once they die. And there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this game. As I mentioned, there's tons of expansions. There is a fantastic app, but I will say that with a caveat. The app is only good if you plan on playing pass and play or solo. When you're playing online, it kind of stinks. But other than that, Small World from Days of Wonder, fantastic game. If you've not played it, you need to play it. And everything in my top 10, you need to try at least once. Really fun game. That is Small World, Days of Wonder. Moving on to my number 9, another game that I don't own because a good friend of mine owns it, even though right now he won't play it with me for various different reasons. This is the only game, this is one of the few games on the list that actually went up on the list, and that is my number 9 game, was number 13 last year, Battlestar Galactica from Fantasy Flight Games. And man, I love this game. Partially because it's a game and partially because it's an experience that you're going to talk about for months and months afterwards. And you'll be like, man, I remember that time in the game you did this thing and that thing. What's the game about? I honestly don't know. I don't know. I've never seen Battlestar Galactica, the show. The theme is cool. The theme is immersive. And in this game, I think you're trying to get to Earth or something like that. You're trying to do your hyper thrusters and your warp drives and your food and your people and blah, 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 blah. I don't care. When I play this game, I am role-playing. I really do. I get really into this game. And my one and only goal, regardless of whether or not I'm a good guy or a bad guy, is to be the president. I want to be the president of the game because he has cool special abilities and superpowers that he can do. And so no matter if it's going to hurt my team or help my team, I love trying to be the president and hoard cards to be the president. And it's a lot of fun that way. Some people get really mad about it. Some people think I'm the Cylon for it. And I've got thrown in jail. Let me tell you, in this game, I get thrown in jail all the freaking time. But the main thing about this game that I really enjoy is just the fact that there are Cylons, or AKA the bad guys that are working against you, and you don't know who they are at the beginning of the game. So you're trying to figure out who's the bad guy based on what everybody's doing. And then you throw in a wild card like me who's just got their own unique goal where they're trying to go be the president for no reason at all, aside from the fact they like to be the president. I love this game. I cannot stop gushing over this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And that just goes to speak about how great this list is. This is my 9th best game. That's Battlestar Galactica from Fantasy Flight Games. Last year, 13, it's moved up to number 9. And I also have not played the expansions on it. So that's just even more Battlestar Galactica goodness I have to explore. Not to mention the TV show, which I've heard is fantastic. Moving on to my number 8, and I think I have all the rest of the games on the list because they're my favorites, obviously. That is Lord of the Rings, the LCG, the living card game from Fantasy Flight Games. This is a new game on the list. It was not on the list last year. And this is a 2-player game, or a solo game, where you are going to be trying to complete various different tasks that are all Lords of the Ring, and you're going to be essentially playing through the story of the Lords of the Rings. And it's a living card game, which means there's a new booster deck or booster pack that comes out every single month. Now, I don't have the money to follow through all that. I wish I did. But what that does mean is that once in a while, when I want to, I can plump down 15, 20 bucks, and I can get an expansion to this game, and I'll have more cards to play with, which will give me a better chance of surviving, which I still don't do because this is probably the hardest game on the list. This and Space Hulk Death Angel are ridiculously just pull out your hair hard. This game is so hard. I've had this game for almost a year. I've probably played it 15, 20 times, and I have still yet to beat the third mission in this game. I've beaten the first two, but I cannot beat that third mission. I get so close, and then I just get crushed by a spider or whatever. Kills me. The theme is very, very immersive. It really does. I always play. This is one of the few games that I actually play with the soundtrack. I'll get the Pandora and I'll get the Lord of the Rings soundtrack and the Halo soundtracks. I'll just have these deep orchestral soundtracks. Lord of the Rings, the card game, is the best solo game I've ever played. It's a fantastic cooperative game. If you like difficult games, if you like two-player games, if you like solo games, if you like Lord of the Rings games, if you like any of those things, you owe it to yourself to try this game. It is a fantastic, difficult card games. That's Lord of the Rings, the LCG, my number 8. Moving on to number 7, another game that actually went up on my list. Last year it was number 14. It was on Kickstarter. It was successfully funded. That is Corporate America from Nothing Sacred Games from Teal Fristo. And the guy that made this game, he saw my sense of humor on Twitter, something like that. He said, hey, I want to send you this game to review. And I fell in love with this game. I love this game. It's 3 to 6 players. It's going to take you about 90 minutes to 2 hours to play. But let me tell you, every moment of it is worth it. It is first and foremost, there's some humor in the game. But this game has some fantastic negotiation. Essentially, in this game, what you're going to be trying to do is you're going to be trying to make the most money by running for president, creating companies that have synergy, and blah, blah, blah. That all sounds boring. But what it is it mashes up 3 completely different mechanics into this glorious chocolate-covered bacon, peanut butter, M&M, jelly, jam, delicious concoction. I was just going to keep going with food there. So essentially, you're going to start off the game and you're going to be buying companies. You want these companies to synergize. You want to have more than one of the same type of company because that's going to earn you more money in the next round, which we'll get into in a second. But some of the companies will give you special powers, and some of the companies will have bad things on them that could potentially hurt you, like if you're polluting or if you're doing this or doing that, so you have a sin company that could potentially hurt you in the long run of the game. So you're going to create these companies, and then you move to the next completely different phase where you're going to be drawing companies. And there's going to be symbols on them to say, so if you have an automotive company, you'll make money. But if you have 2 of those automotive companies, you're going to make more money. Then if you have 3, you're going to make more money. So the synergy that you did in the first step is going to pay off in the second step. But the second step is arguably one of my favorite steps. I guess there's only 3. I love this step because it's all about negotiation. You get to draw a card for free, but then the next card you got to pay for. But say you don't want to play the card, but somebody else really does. Let's say, yeah, I'll pay $5 if you play that card. Somebody else say, I'll play it $2 if you don't play that card. Somebody else say, I'll give you $1 if you just flip over the next card and just do it no matter what. And I love that negotiation in this game. But once you've done that, everybody's made a bunch of money, you move on to the third stage where someone will be running for the President of the United States. Yeah, this game gets that big. And essentially what's going to happen, they're going to put out some laws and some bills that are going to hurt you or help you based on various different things. And only one person can be the president during a round, which means other people are going to have to contribute to your campaign. So essentially, before you are going to figure out who the president is, a certain number of people are going to say, you know what, when I'm president, I'm going to do this and this and this. But the key is, there also gets to be revealed some more cards that you can potentially do, so people can be like, yeah, you know what, I kind of don't want to do that anymore. So you get to the final phase, which is where people are going to be contributing money to certain different campaigns based on who they want to win. You don't get that money back. That person doesn't get that money. That money is just gone, but that person, whoever wins, is going to be the president. They get a super cool, awesome presidential power card, which will let them do something completely awesome and game-breaking later in the game, and then you rinse, wash, repeat, I think 3 rounds. It is a fantastic game. I love the game. It is just grossly underplayed. You need to go play this game right now. It is fantastic. That is Corporate America from Nothing Sacred Games. Moving on to my number 6, which was not on the list last year. That is Coup from Indie Board and Cards. I've done a review of this one. I like to call it Coup or Cop or Coup. But in this game, you're going to be playing as a future dynasty. I don't know. You got 2 guys in front of you. You want them to stay alive. But the 2 people in front of you are secret. And they're going to give you secret abilities that you can do legally. without breaking the rules of the game. However, you also have the option of just lying and letting people assume you have this special ability, and you can do that special ability, but people might call you out on that special ability, which at which point you have to say, all right, yeah, I was lying, I'm sorry. Or you can say, no, I have this special ability. And they're going to call you out if they want to. But they get penalized if they call you out and they're wrong, and you get penalized if they call you out and they're right by not getting to do what you did. But essentially, you're going to have two cards in front of you, and you don't want those two cards to die. There's coups and money and various different other things. The base game was absolutely fantastic. The game I have here is Coup Reformation, which just came out this year. Fantastic expansion. The game itself is incredibly simple. It plays, 15 minutes, 2 to 10 players. Don't play it 2, 3, or 4 players. Play it with more. It's a fantastic game. The expansion just adds like this little extra layer of goodness to the game that I really, really liked. Highly recommend the base. Highly recommend the expansion. That is Coup from Indie Board and Cards. Fantastic game. My number 6. Getting on to the top 5. All these are big, big, heavy hitters. My number 5. I believe this is the only game that stayed pat. It was number 5 last year. It's number 5 now. That is from Arcane Waters. That is Mage Wars. And oh, I love Mage Wars. If I could have one game become a mobile app, or I guess a tablet app, this would be that game. I love Mage Wars. And in Mage Wars, what you're going to be doing is you are going to be creating a spell book for a mage and then fighting your mage against somebody else into the death. And your spell book is going to be all completely about what you want in your spell book. 99% of the cards you can put into your spell book, but they're going to have different costs in there. So there's actually 2 games in this game. The first part is creating your spellbook and putting in exactly what you want, catering your mage to be exactly how you want them to play. And the second is just this awesome battle where you're going to be chucking dice and moving around the board and summoning creatures and unleashing fire blast and doing all sorts of really cool stuff. And then the third phase, which I didn't talk about there being 3, I said there was 2, but who cares, is actually you realizing what you did wrong in your spellbook and then fine-tuning it and putting in little nuances and saying, oh, I have 2 points left. What can I do? I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. What do I need to do? And then rinse, wash, and repeating. There are also tons of expansions. I think there's 4 or 5 out now. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them here. I really want to get them. But they are fantastic as well. I've played with a couple of them before. They add new mages and new cards and new special abilities and new creatures and new pets and all sorts of new stuff. And one thing I will say though, this is my favorite 2-player game. Hands down. If you said, I want to play a 2-player game with you, I have an unlimited amount of time, I'm willing to learn anything, this is the first game I would go to, period. This is the best 2-player game of all time. Mark it down, book it, it's fantastic, but it does take you an hour and a half to 2 hours to play, especially when you're first starting the game, but it is worth that investment. That is Mage Wars from Arcane Waters. Gosh, I love this game. I'm just gushing over all these games. I love all these games so much. So, moving on to my number 4. This last year, it was number 2, so it had a small drop, but it's still by no means a jump. It's one of the best games of all time. You've probably seen it before if you're watching that video. This is Ticket to Ride from Days of Wonder. It was 2, now it's 4. It's still a fantastic game. You're going to be putting trains down, building across the country. And I played Ticket to Ride Europe. I played all the different versions except for Markland. I played a bunch of the expansion maps. But Ticket to Ride USA for me is still my favorite. It's my go-to gateway game. If I know I've got an hour and somebody is willing to play a game, and this is probably it. They're either going to like this game and they might get more involved in the hobby, or they're not going to like it and they're just going to forever push away hobby games. This is the game I grab, no doubt in my mind. Plays fantastic with 2, plays fantastic with 5. It looks pretty, super simple to learn, super simple to teach, super simple mechanics. You can buy it at Target now. It is just hugely popular, fantastic game. It's got a fantastic mobile app, and it's my wife's favorite game. That is Ticket to Ride, Days of Wonder, must-own game. I will say this is one of those must-own games. Moving on, we are to our final 3 games. Now, I'm going to say I cheated. I cheated on number 3. I did. Because I'm going to put 2 games together. I don't want to do this, but I had to do this because I think the games are awfully similar. These are 2 games that I actually own. I just don't have because they're at my camera guy Eric's house because he loves playing it with his family. And I'm not going to deprive him of good, wholehearted fun of killing each other and destroying cities. My number 3 is King of New York and King of Tokyo. I'm going to mash them together. Last year, King of Tokyo was number 6, and King of New York just came out this year, so it's a new entry to the list. And these are just absolutely fantastic games from Yellow. They are, but I will say that I think King of New York is a step up to King of Tokyo. I think complexity-wise, I don't know. I originally, when I did my King of New York review, thought I liked King of New York better, but I still like King of Tokyo. After going back and playing King of Tokyo, I think I like King of Tokyo better. But I'm sure if I go play a couple more games of King of New York, I think I'm going to like King of New York better. They're both fantastic games. Do you need to have both on your shelf? I don't think so. The question is, in 5 years from now, which game do I think I'll be more likely to play? And I think it'll probably be King of Tokyo, just because it's a fantastic gateway game. It's got those really simple Yahtzee mechanics, and it's just the bare minimum. It's just that little bit easier than King of New York, and I think I would grab it ahead of King of New York with newer gamers. But that being said, I'm kind of rambling here. They're both fantastic games that I absolutely can recommend. I mashed them together. I think next year I'm going to have to cheat. I'm going to have to stop cheating and break them apart, and that'll be interesting to see where they go. But last year, King of Tokyo by itself was number 6, but when I mashed it together with King of New York, it is now my number 3. So my number 3 is King of New York, King of Tokyo, both fantastic games. Moving on to number 2, the game that is just one game away from being my favorite game of all time. Last year, it was number 4. It's from Z-Man Games, and that is Pandemic. And I have the new version right here. This game was my gateway game. It really was, you know. And I talk about gateway games, how some games are the games that get you in, open the gateway, so to speak, to other games. And this was it. This was the whole, you know, if I had never played this game, I would not be reviewing games. I wouldn't have created games. I wouldn't be talking about games. I'd still be playing video games. And this was the game that got me into the hobby. And it's fantastic. It's still a fantastic game. Matt Leacock is my favorite game designer. I love a lot of the stuff he does. I love most of the stuff he does. I think I love all the stuff he does. It's a fantastic gateway game. It's fun. It's cooperative. You're trying to save the world. The components are really nice. The cards are really well balanced, even though the medic and the scientist are better than everything else. The expansions are a lot of fun. I'm really excited to try out the new expansion. I unfortunately only own the base game, but I want to get the expansions. They got a dice game. I'm sure they're going to have a card game one day. Pandemic from Z-Man Games is a must-own game if you're a hobby gamer. Just period. It is my go-to cooperative game. A lot of fun. Fantastic. My gateway game. My number 2 game of all time, Pandemic. Which brings me to my number 1 game. What game was good enough to usurp my gateway game? Well, if you watched my video last year, you will know what it is, because last year it was number 1, and this year it is still number 1, and I don't see it moving in the foreseeable future because it's so heavy, partially. That is Twilight Imperium 3rd edition from Fantasy Flight Games. This game essentially made the company, and it's the best game. It is the best game ever, period. It's fantastic. You must try it at least once. Now, some people are going to say it's too long, and it is. It's really long. It's like 3 to 6 hours. It's huge, and if you have the expansions, which unfortunately I don't have, it adds even more length and more players. But, that being said, this is the best gaming experience that I have ever had, for my money. It is a space opera. There's politics, and there's backstabbery, and there's treaties, and there's trading, and it sucks away a day of your life, and it's a surreal day. It's a completely different day from everything else. You play this on a Monday, and you're gonna be out in space. You're gonna be in this race of aliens, building up your technology, and forming treaties, and deciding when to backstab people, and exploring space. And then the next day, you're gonna go to work. And I love that. I still talk about games of this that I played over a year ago. It is without a doubt the best game I've ever played. I don't see anything surpassing it. It is an epic, truly epic experience in a culture where we say epic too much. I don't think I've said it all in this video. This is an epic game. I love it. Cannot recommend it enough. It is Twilight Imperium 3rd edition, my number 1 game of all time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you stuck around this, it's my top 30 games of all time. What do you think about it? Post in the comments below. Let me know your favorite games of all time. Let me know those games that I missed. Let me know especially if you got those tiny, hidden little gems that nobody knows about, because I love getting those gems. I love getting some of these games, like some of these games that were on Kickstarter that not enough people know about. I want to get those games the exposure that they deserve. And as always, I do want to say thank you for letting me do this for another year of coming into your computer and talking at you way too fast. If you enjoy this content, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.
He plays games, he reviews games, he eats food trash when nobody's watching. It's Battlestar Games.
Yay!